I'm Haroon Rashid. Hey, John, my number one celebrity crush, Erin Coscarelli, gave me a shout out on Twitter yesterday. Do you think I should take her out on a date tonight?
Hi, I'm John Stevenson. Really? I thought we were going out tonight.
Oh, about that. I think I'd rather take out Erin, if I'm honest.
It's Orange Wednesday. Come on, Gone Girl.
Hey, sports fans, Haroon Rashid, Khemeia Consulting, and welcome to Haroon's Hangout, the internationally featured show where we make digital marketing simple, straightforward, and fun. Today, Social Media Examiner turns, count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're just going to be talking about all good things about Social Media Examiner because we're really big fans of them, the key lessons that we can learn and that you can learn. And we're going to be talking about our favorite lessons that Micheal Stelzner has given. And we'll be talking about a podcast that he's done recently, talking all about the 5-year anniversary. So how does that sound to you, John?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Awesome. So let's talk about, firstly, who Social Media Examiner is and why you should care about it. Well, I mean, it's one of our favorite blogs, and I'll bring it up on the screen here. There you go. There's their homepage. Social Media Examiner has been one of our favorite blogs for a while now. They are widely considered to be one of the biggest and best resources for social media marketing content. It's run by a chap called Micheal Stelzner, and basically he's assembled a group or a network of some of the biggest and brightest and best stars in social media in the world who all contribute regularly to Social Media Examiner. We'll be putting all the links to them in their blog, where you can subscribe to them for more content and everything. But John, have you got a few stats up your sleeve there?
I've got a few stats. What would life be without some stats, eh?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, again, well, let's do the yawn factor. So if I hear you yawning, I'll shut up instantly. How does that sound?
You got a deal.
Okay, good stuff, good stuff. Jumping in, they've been remarkably successful over the last 5 years. What I found truly amazing was that Technorati, after 2 weeks after they launched in the States, way back in 2009, they were the top 10 business blog on that platform. Now, that's staggering. Fast forward 18 months, and they were 5th in the Power 150 influential marketing blogs. And we're here today in 2014, almost 5 years to the day, give and take this week. And today they are the online magazine, which gets 1 million hits a month, where importantly people consume and read their content. And no yawn.
No yawn, indeed, no. And I've got one stat as well, John. It's not just you that gives me stats as well. I know that, well, I mean, this is from the podcast that Micheal Stelzner did, but I know that he said, I think in their first year, they did about $1.7 million. So in their first year, $1.7 million. So these guys aren't they're not small fry. These guys know what they're doing, and they're doing it well. So let's just bring up the podcast then that Micheal did. So let's bring it on the screen right now. There we go. So it was quite funny actually because Micheal was guesting on his own show, on his own podcast. So in this, we'll put a link to this in the show notes. But Micheal just went through his story of how he started Social Media Examiner. How he did everything step by step, and the key lessons that he's learned as well. And I really like this because he was very candid and very open about everything, his successes and his failures. And I love it when people do that, because he's not just painted himself out to be this, well, I know everything type of guy. He just said, well, you know what? I think he said he had about 10 failed businesses before Social Media Examiner, which was really, really like, I had no idea. And he was just saying, well, you know what? I didn't even know if Social Media Examiner was going to be a success. So he said he had a 3-year plan. He said, I'll see how's it going to be after 3 years. And then here we are 5 years later, and he's just gone phenomenal. What were the key takeaways that you found, John? What stood out for you?
Thanks, Haroon. I think there are 5 really. I'll whiz through them really quickly. The first one is it's really important to build great relationships. You've touched upon it there, and it takes time. But what I really admire about Social Media Examiner is that they're giving without asking for anything in return, and what they get from that is respect. So they're able to show the audience, and they're rewarded by that audience sharing content. So that's the first thing, build up great relationships. The second thing is grow an email list. Well, last time I looked, I think they had about 290,000 people on their email list. Wow. That's just fantastic. If you think of the strategy and the fact that people have allowed them to bother them in their inbox once a day, what it means is that they're pumping out consistent quality content, that is. Third thing is monetization. It's not in your face. It's not a hard sell. If it was, people would be hitting the unsubscribe button. So I love the way they've monetized. So with that, the summits, the Social Media Success Summit and Social Media Marketing World, that's subtle how they've done that. And I think that's to be admired. Fourthly, share content on all networks. Some of the businesses we speak to only tend to use LinkedIn predominantly. That's okay, but share your content on multiple platforms. Top content is shared across multiple networks. And last but not least, great authoritative authors. I think that's the secret, because those are the guys and girls who are producing quality content.
There's a couple of points there I want to pick up on because they're really important. But first of all, Haroon's Hangout is presented by the Khemeia Network and Khemeia Consulting, Yorkshire's innovation agency, where we believe that innovation is the key to business growth. Yeah, so the last thing I think that you said there, I was talking to Jon Haydon. Jon's a great friend of the show, a great friend of Khemeia. First time I had the opportunity to speak to Jon was when he guested on the show. Now, when we were talking afterwards, we were talking about Social Media Examiner, funnily enough. And I said to Jon, well, you know what? I said, there's loads of different blogs out there, different social media companies and all that. Why is Social Media Examiner the big one? What is so different about them? Because I don't see that there's anything massively different that they're doing, but for some reason, everyone gravitates towards Micheal Stelzner and Social Media Examiner. And Jon said, well, he goes, I think it's actually because Micheal Stelzner has created this network, this super network of really high quality people like Mari Smith and I think Amy Porterfield and Jay Baer, he mentions in the podcast, all these guys and gals, who contribute regularly to Social Media Examiner, and he's pulled in all this great talent, and it's like he's built this all-star team around his brand, which is fantastic. And now this is the other part of it, he talks about building those relationships and just giving to people and helping them without expecting anything in return. And I think that that's such a nice thing to do. I think that there is still space for nice people in this industry, in this world. I don't think nice guys finish last. I think nice guys can build up multi-million-dollar companies and still rock it. I mean, look at that. So for me, I was really pleased to hear that. He was saying, I think he said Jay Baer, he met him when he was relatively unknown. He said he helped Jay along his journey. He wasn't the only one, he said, but now Jay's like a superstar. I think it's at Convince and Convert, his blog is. Again, Jon Haydon, one of Jon Haydon's favorite as well. So it was nice to see that Micheal Stelzner is not just this guy who takes, but he seems to be someone who has given a lot, and people are willing, therefore, to do things for him because he's a nice, genuine, sincere guy. Not that I've met him, but hopefully I will one day. So what were your favorite key lessons from the podcast, Jon?
I think there are three, Haroon. The first one is, we haven't mentioned it yet, but Social Media Examiner to me means authority. And what I think is so clever about their business strategy is producing the marketing industry report. So that's something that 2,800 marketeers understand and explore and answer the questions that are laid out. So who, what, where, when, how. But if you look at that, it's the tactics behind how to use social media, the various social media platforms. But what I think is subtle and what I really admire about it is what it allows social media examiner to do is plan, develop and curate their content and make sure their content is of value to their audience every 12 months. So that's the first one. Authority in the social media marketing industry report, which I think is about it's six volume now. Second one is, you've touched upon it earlier in the show, Haroon, is he's certainly not afraid to podcast and try something new. So he's not afraid to experiment. What I admire about that is it's now become a promotional tool, I think, for social media marketing world, the annual conference. But it's done in such a way that, as I said before, it's not in your face, it's subtle, it's not a hard sell. What I also think is lovely about that is that it's a pitch to receive free content, and I think that's the trademark of Social Media Examiner. A lot of the stuff you can get is for free, and it's all based centrally around how to. That's my second one, is that it's not afraid to experiment. My third one is bringing it all together. It's kind of like a virtuous circle now. So what do I mean by that? Well, as we're in Yorkshire, I'm going to say the proof is in the Yorkshire pudding, and say that it all works and it all knits together. So let me explain that. The social signals are put out there by having great content, and the litmus test with that is, are the puddings going to rise in the oven? Well, yes, they are, because the great content is shared, a bit like good Yorkshire puddings. They don't end up in the bin, but they end up consumed and swallowed and, and digested. So what's also good is that it's evidence that it's giving continual value to the readers. People are looking at it, looking at the lists, the how-to and the infographics, and thinking, that's how you do it. And last but not least, it's creating a great footprint which is consistent, and the social signals that are being sent out to people across the multiple networks are strong evidence that the platform and the content and the curation and the consumption of everything is being taken on board and understood, and it self-generates. And then we're back round to the top of the virtuous circle again.
Absolutely. Be sure to catch At the Sharp End Mondays at 9 a.m. UK time with our head of Khemeia Consulting, Ian Sharp, where he talks about business innovation, business modeling, business strategy, and all kinds of business issues that small businesses face, particularly in the Yorkshire region. But do go and check that out. Mondays, 9 a.m. only on Google+. For me, John, I think that I agree with all those. Those were some of my favorites. One thing that really stood out for me as well, and I think it's very apt for what content we've been putting out recently, is that Micheal Stelzner used a phrase, and he used business model. Okay, now he talked about, I think at one point Eric, the interviewer, asked Micheal, what were some of the key parts of the success, and Micheal said, create great content, and then he said, but you have to build relationships first. Now, I know that for anybody who hasn't seen our stuff, and you can go and check out our blog. We talk about social media hippies, people who just say, it's just about talking to people, it's just about building relationships. But Micheal brought that balance, which is what we've been trying to do with our content, saying that, yes, build relationships, but hey, social media hippie, guess what? He also created content, and he's got a business model. If you don't like it, Stelzner he's got a multi-million-dollar company. So don't tell me it's just about building those relationships. He's building relationships with a view to make some money. So there, pull your head out of your backside and take that, whatever. So hashtag Haroon's rant.
On that rant, just to put more fuel into the fire of your belly, there's a really good bit in the latest annual report, the Social Media Marketing Industry Report, which there's a section in there about return on investment. So that's really useful for marketers to understand, and for business owners, depending on the size of the company. And it's talking about time to put in versus sales, that age-old argument. There you go.
In fact, we talked about. I guess I did on Ian's show at the Sharp End just a couple of days ago. In fact, we might just put that in the show notes as well, because we talked about the whole thing about ROI and marketeers, particularly the social media hippies, do not talk about ROI because they're afraid of it. But I'm not going to go into that in too much detail. But hey, social media hippies, guess what? Social Media Examiner makes money. Okay, so don't just stop with the relationship building stuff. Create content as well.
And they do it in such a way, my last point now, their tone of voice and the content that they're producing is quality, clear, straight to the point. And guess what? It's an online magazine that appeals to people. And I think that's the magic.
Absolutely. And that whole thing about adding value, the way it adds value is that they're actually creating content that solves a problem or a need of the audience. And it's stuff that you actually want to read. And like you say, tone of voice is written in a compelling way. So whenever I see anything from Social Media Examiner's blog or from the podcast, the titles, I always go, I need to bookmark that. I need to read that, or I need to listen to that later on. It really appeals to me. And I just think what they do is fantastic. So I think we're going to leave it there for today, guys. We hope that you have enjoyed it. We just want to give a very special shout out to Micheal Stelzner and all the guys at Social Media Examiner. Happy 5th anniversary, and we just wish you many more years of success. And we can't wait to do your 10-year anniversary on this show as well. But from me and John the Major Stevenson, we just want to say thanks a lot, guys, and take care, sports fans.
Thank you. Bye.